Live, where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
It's Sunday, September 13th. Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. I'm Stephanie Valle filling in for Maria Garcia tonight. For the next half hour, we're talking all things city. In the last month, City Council has been in the spotlight. This week, Mayor Oscar Leeser delivered his State of the City, and he put a unique twist on it by changing the format into a question and answer. Last week, the move to repave some streets came into question after it became known that some streets were being fixed even though they were not on the capital improvements project list. And some council members came under fire for directly interacting with city department heads and for approving a 5-figure pay raise for the city manager after a year on the job. You can email us your comments and questions now to ABC7extra at KVIA.com. You can also reach us at 915-496-1775. On Twitter, you can mention me at Stephanie Valle 7, or you can use the hashtag ABC7Extra. We'll be joined by our special guest to talk about these topics, but first, let's recap what's happened.
In the budget session,
El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser chose a more relaxed State of the City format, moving through the crowd with a Q&A rather than behind the podium for a typical address.
What's the deal with all the headlines about City Council being dysfunctional, and what's going on with the city manager's race?
So that's the easy question.
Yeah, they get harder from here.
Leeser's first question dealing with the climate on council, discussions on the dais sometimes getting tense.
Sometimes we get a little heated. There's no ifs and buts about that, but that really adds a little flavor to the city.
The flavor of late? Sour. Last month, City Council approved a pay raise for City Manager Tommy Gonzalez of $61,000, a 26% increase, a decision that divided council.
We're not paying him more than he's worth. We're paying him what he is worth.
The pay raise validated by supporters for Gonzalez's work to save the city money, including closing a $7.5 million deficit in the city budget.
I believe he has done a good job. A good job. I am not convinced that it is at the level that perhaps my colleagues will claim.
Let's stop this nonsense that we chastise the city manager when he didn't even ask for this.
The sour taste lingering when last week City Rep Larry Romero was criticized for changing the city's capital improvement plan, or CIP. It's a list of more than $200 million of street improvements planned across El Paso.
The city manager asked Fred Lopez to go with each of the city reps and drive around their district, tour their districts, and listen to our concerns. And like I've told people, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
One of the projects not on the list, an alley that runs behind two of Larry Romero's campaign contributors. Romero says the alley was in terrible condition.
I'm just trying to answer what my constituents want. And I'm looking out for the constituents and doing what I can to make sure that we get them what they're asking for.
The important part is the community out here.
During the State of the City, the mayor tried sweetening things up, touting job growth in El Paso, comparing it to a fruit tree that needs time to blossom.
We've seen a lot of people that have come to El Paso, really the wages are increasing monthly. There's so many great things going on that that fruit tree is starting to blossom.
And joining me now in studio is Mayor Oscar Leeser. Thank you for coming in tonight, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for asking me to come here.
So first of all, let's talk about the state of the city. In your opinion, what is the state of El Paso?
You know, the state of El Paso is a great state. You know, it's great. We're creating jobs, and you know, when we go out and talk to other cities and we go talk to other companies, we're not looking for jobs. We're looking for future, and that's where when we start talking about comparing it to a fruit tree, is that we bring high quality companies to El Paso, ADP, Prudential, Schwab, Mesa Air, and these companies is like a fruit tree. And the example I kind of gave up there was like you go to a nursery and you buy a fruit tree and you take it home, you dig your hole, you plant it and you water it and you go to bed, and you wake up the next day and you walk out and you go, I've been ripped off. There's no fruit on it. It's a fruit tree. So, you know, these great companies are bringing, you know, these are Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies that are going to bring a great future to our community. So we've had almost 6,500 jobs, either expansion or creation of jobs within the last 18 months. And that's what we need to continue to do. The future of El Paso is very bright.
I wanted to talk more about the job creation in a second, but I did want to ask you, why did you change the format this year?
You know, it was really important. If you ever go into my office and you go talk to me, I sit at a table. I never sit at the desk. I never go in my office, really. I have a little conference room where I'll sit there together because I want to meet amongst the people, out there with the people that elected me. I enjoy talking to them, and it was really important. And I've had a lot of comments, and the comments have been great, that people really enjoyed the format, and they felt very relaxed and very tuned to the state of the city.
It was nice to see you walking around the crowd. I'm sure that a lot of people were more interested in what you had to say since you were right behind them. Okay, going back to your analogy on the economy and fruit trees, so we know that fruit trees do not bear apples and oranges overnight, but it can take years for this to happen. So where is El Paso in terms of the growth of the fruit tree? How far in?
That's a great statement, because it does take years, you know. And one thing that if we had started 10, 15, 20 years ago, we'd have the great, you know, job is going this way, but we didn't. So we brought, within the last 18 months, we've had 10 or 11 companies that either expanded or come to El Paso. ADP went from 1,200 to 2,400 team members because of the citizens of El Paso, the great citizens. They had an opportunity to go to Augusta, Georgia, or El Paso, and in Augusta they didn't know, they owned the property. In El Paso they didn't, so it was a little more costly for them to expand in El Paso, but the great people of El Paso is what made the difference.
So what can we expect to see in the next year in terms of job creation, our economy?
You know, you'll see a lot of what we've been doing right now, but right now we have about 6 companies we've been working with, and we're actively going to the companies and talking to them, and that makes a big difference. When I walk into their office, and the mayor, who is a businessman who has started a business and moved a business forward and understands the return on investment is one of the most important things, and that's what these companies look at, and the quality of life, quality of play. So we talk to them, and we talk about how the citizens of El Paso back in 2012 invested in themselves for the quality of life bond, and that's important as they see that El Paso is willing to invest in itself, because we're asking them to invest in us, or we go talk to them and we thank them for the investment. And we've been traveling with the Mayor Waters, which is really important. Our economy is so tight, so close tied together. Almost $100 billion come across our borders every year. We've been to Chicago, we've been to Detroit with the Mayor Waters, and we talk to companies that have a presence either in El Paso and Waters, and we thanked them, and they said, we've been here 30 years, no one's ever done that. But we thank them for the investment and trusting in our communities, and how do we help you continue to invest and continue to grow, and that's how we've seen the growth in El Paso. And so you'll see a lot of that. We plan on going to South Korea, we plan on going to Israel to talk to these companies about coming to, we have so many similarities to coming to El Paso and expanding their businesses.
Sounds like you're planting a lot of seeds
in
this theoretical garden. All right, so like we said in the overview, the first question that you got was about a dysfunctional city council. So we've seen the bitter arguments, from the seat swap that took place just months ago in city council, to others being criticized for their stances on certain issues, such as the city manager's pay raise. So should El Pasoans be concerned that it doesn't appear that council can always play nice? You know,
and when we were talking at the State of the City, 8-0 vote is a bad deal. Then you need to see if what's going on, because they need to have their opinions, and they need to go out and talk to the constituents and find out the different needs of all the districts and bring them forward. So if we were always 8-0, we probably need to investigate and see if there's a walking quorum, because it's not possible that always they would agree on everything. And you're right, they get pretty heated, and we've had seat swaps probably about a year and a half ago. It wasn't a couple months, but it was about a year and a half ago. So we have had some very heated arguments, but really, at the end of the day, they're all working for one thing, and that's the important part. The thing they're working for is to improve the city and the quality of life for the citizens of El Paso.
I know that a difference in opinion, it sounds ideal, because you say it can lead to more in-depth discussion. I know that's something that you brought up at the State of the City, but we've also seen it when it can dissolve into name-calling, filibusters in different levels of government, and that just seems like it can be ineffective at times. Do you feel like this gets to a point where it becomes ineffective?
It's very important to always respect each other and understand that that an opinion is cannot be taken as a personal attack or have personal attacks. So I agree with you that we need to understand that even though we have a difference of opinion, we always need to respect each other.
And we actually had a comment about this on Facebook, and Steve had said, it seems like you as mayor need to convene a meeting that has no childish antics. Everyone must work together as one for the betterment of the entire city. So what as mayor can you do to improve conduct?
Well, we need to continue to work together, and I meet with all city representatives during the week and talk about issues within their districts and what we can do to continue to work together if there's any differences. So continue to work. Tomorrow morning I meet at 7:30 with the first city representative. I'll meet again tomorrow morning at 7:30 and during the day. So every week I meet with city representatives to continue to work together and find out how can I help you in your district and what is there any differences we need to work out. So it's been very important to continue the dialogue, not only during city council, but every day during the day.
Okay. All right, Mayor, so we're going to keep talking about everything going on in the city, but before we go, or before we continue our conversation, we need to take a commercial break. So you're watching ABC-7 Extra, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the city manager's pay raise, and also if you'd like to share your comments and your questions, of course, you can email us at ABC7 Extra at KVIA.com, Twitter at Stephanie Valle 7, hashtag ABC7 Extra. Give us a call at 496-1775. You're watching ABC7 Extra, where news comes first. Welcome back to ABC7 Extra. We've been talking with Mayor Oscar Leeser about the state of the city, El Paso's economy, and city council relations. And a reminder, we are live, and you can join this discussion by calling 496-1775 or emailing us at ABC7Extra at KVIA.com. So, Mayor, let's talk about the city manager's pay raise right now. So, City Council voted to give Tommy Gonzalez a $61,000 pay raise, meaning he'll make $300,000 a year. This on top of the 5% increase that is tied to his evaluation, according to his contract. Now, city reps say that Gonzalez deserves it based on how much money that he has saved the city and how much other city managers get paid. So how did this come about if he didn't ask for it?
You know, City Council did bring it up. Representative Romero and Representative No put it on the agenda to talk about it, and then it was brought up. But it's not additional to the 5%. The 5% put it at almost $251,000, so it's additional $49,000. But I was not in favor of it, and one of the things I said I was not in favor of because we do have a contract, and we had a contract that said that we were going to pay the $239 and then evaluate it on a yearly basis and give him a 5% based on his evaluation. He had a great evaluation. He had a 4.64, which actually was excellent, that was doing a really good job. So when council voted on it, and I said that at council that I was not for it, but at the end of the day, I had a couple people call me up and they said, you know, Mayor, you need to veto that. And if you veto it, you'll be the hero. You'll end up, whatever you want to run for, whatever you want to do, says you'll be able to get elected. And I said, that's not the real answer. The answer is, if I veto it, what will it cost the citizens? What will it cost the people that trusted me to put me into office? And it would have been thousands, probably millions of dollars, because our city manager would have been probably looking for a job or not looking for a job, not in the right frame of mind, or we might have lost him. And if fair market value is $300,000, to move forward to find another city manager would have cost us $300,000. But now that we do have them at market value, that's where we need to be then moving forward. We don't need to discuss this any longer next year. We don't need to give them a big raise. And I've even said that if we move forward and did that next year, I would veto it up front and I would not allow it to move forward, because we put it at market value and we need to leave it there and continue to do the evaluation and do it based on his contract.
I know that you discussed it right now, but so many people do vote on their conscience, they make a vote on principle, so why didn't you do that?
Again, because, and I analyzed it and I said, if I did it, would it cost the taxpayers a lot of money? The answer is yes. It would have cost, I really believe it would have cost us millions of dollars in projects that we're working on today, future jobs that we're looking for. Remember, companies, a lot of them, when we go out and talk to them, they don't know a lot about El Paso, but they go online and read about El Paso, and if they looked at that we had gone backwards on a raise that we gave a city manager, and that our word is not very good, then we would have had a really hard time going out and trying to recruit companies, and we would have had probably impossible trying to recruit a new city manager. So you have to look at it and say, if I veto it, would it cost the taxpayers millions of dollars? The answer would have been yes. Now, And that's how you look at it. You don't want, if you're getting elected to do the popular thing and not the right thing, that's the wrong thing to do. So I sat there and really looked at it and studied it and make sure that the decision I made was the right decision for the citizens of El Paso, and it didn't cost them money moving forward. And like I said, now we're there. We're at market value. We're at fair market value. So we're not, next year we're not looking at another raise. We're looking at the evaluation of his performance and a 5% raise if qualified.
Now, we had a report that of the 6,000 employees that are working for the city, 5,000 of them get paid less than $61,000. And I saw the list of employees. It was almost 100 pages long, just to give you an idea. So you can understand why this amount of money given as a raise is not sitting well with a lot of people.
And was it a raise or was it market adjustment? And that's what you got to look at. You know, a raise over and above what the market would be. Remember, if he left or we decided we didn't want to move forward with the city manager, what would it cost the city to bring a city manager with the same type of qualifications to move the city forward? And that's what you have to look at. So was it a raise or market adjustment? And like I said, I wasn't for it, and I said that at the beginning of City Council when it brought up that if it was a 4-4 tie, I would break the tie and would not allow it to move forward. It was just 6-2. Now, if I veto it, this is also very important. When you veto anything, I can veto anything I want, and council can override a veto on a 6-2 vote, and that's what it was, a 6-2 vote, so they could have overridden my veto. Now, a 5-3 vote does not override the mayor's veto, so at that point, I didn't have anybody coming forward and say, hey, if you vetoed, we'll support you. So it was very important that we didn't turn around and look like we were going back on our word and making it almost impossible for the city to move forward. So I analyzed how many millions it would cost. It would have been a lot. So we'll continue to move forward on the, now we're at market value, and it won't happen again. And like I said a minute ago, that if we do move forward next year looking at it, I will veto it up front where it will not be able to move forward.
Speaking of moving forward, let's go on to the city street paving. City Rep Larry Romero has come under fire for city streets that were paved even though they were not in the 2012 capital improvement project or the CIP list that was created back in 2012, and including an alleyway that was behind two businesses that were owned by people who happened to donate to his campaign, when other street was a street that he lived on. So he says that he did not add the list or these streets to the list. And also, according to today's El Paso Times, that city leaders maintain that they don't know who put these other streets on this list. So how does something like this happen?
Well, Ms. Lambragna did a great job of looking at it. We talked about it at the legislative review when we were on Monday, when we were talking about the item on the agenda, and we're trying to look at, do we move it forward, how do we move it forward, and she has actually stopped any streets that are not on the 2012 plan. Then they have stopped until we can move forward and analyze it and bring it forward. So she did an outstanding job to say, you know, we're going to look at it and move forward. Now, I did go back just recently today and looked at the city council meeting, which was May 24th, 2012, when the CIP was voted on, and Mr. Robinson and Ms. Acosta brought the issue of saying, now, how about some streets that maybe we missed, some streets that actually need resurfacing or maintenance and not part of this? We'll be able to bring them forward and talk about them. The answer was yes, we'll be able to do that. So back when it was voted in 2012, that was already discussed and saying, how can we look forward? And they said, as long as we stay within the budget and not exceed the budget within the districts, we'll be okay. So that was already discussed really back on May 24, 2012, which you can go back and look at that meeting.
We have a comment from Facebook that I'm hoping that you all in the back can pull up real quick. Ralph had said, please ask the mayor how he feels about taxpayer dollars being used to pave back alleys and dirt back streets instead of much needed street work. While driving down Pershing, we noticed some beautifully paved alleys and back roads, yet Pershing and Montana are riddled with tire-sized holes. So how do you feel about that?
You know, and that's what we have to analyze, and Ms. Lambragna did a good job, said let's stop doing streets that were not on the 2012 and look and see to make sure that we take care of the streets that need most fixing. So I agree with them. Let's look at the streets that actually need to be fixed, and maybe some of the streets that were put in 2012 are not the important streets. So let's look at it again and make sure that we take care of the streets that need to be taken care of with taxpayer dollars.
Now, Mayor, I happen to live on a street that was not on the list but is being repaired, and now part of the street has been broken up in front of my home, and so I hear Ms. Lambragna say we're stopping all the repairs. But there's now broken up asphalt in front of my house.
Moving forward,
it's
the streets that are being done need to be finished, but the streets that are not on the list will not move forward until her study is completed.
Okay, because I wanted that to be clear, because when that was said, I was thinking I'm not the only person who's probably dealing with this and wondering about that.
No, absolutely. There's work being done on a lot of the streets out there, maintenance and repairs and resurfacing. So absolutely, and we need to finish those and continue, and then look at make sure that we take care of the streets that need most.
Also, City Manager Tommy Gonzalez was quoted in the Times today regarding this whole street repair controversy, and when he was asked if he's familiar with the street CIP plan, he said he's working to revamp the city departments and workflow and efficiency, and he also said this: I have never been in a city where there has been a need for this level of involvement on my part in any departments. It's archaic, it's unheard of. If we can put that quote up on the screen now. So do you feel like the city reps and city employees are relying too heavily on the city manager in day-to-day operations, or is this tying back to dysfunction perhaps in city council?
No, and you know, the city council, one of the things that they get a lot of constituents concerns and calls, and they need to forward them, and they need to forward them to whatever department, but not dictate what needs to be done. You know, if someone calls out from PSB, you call the PSB and said, we have a concern, can you please call them, get a hold of them, and make sure, do whatever is the right thing to do. They're not going to dictate what needs to be done. So, and you know, one thing we learn, whether it's government or business, you need to inspect what you expect. You know, you can't micromanage because it'd be impossible. You have too much to do, but always inspect what you expect, and you'll never be disappointed.
All right, Mayor, thank you so much for this. Now we're going to come back after the break. You're still watching ABC-7 Extra, and still ahead your comments and questions, and you can still contribute. You can call 496-1775. You can also reach us online at ABC-7 Extra at KVIA.com and on Twitter at Stephanie Valle 7, hashtag ABC-7 Extra. We are talking to Mayor Oscar Leeser about all things city, and we have several calls, Mayor. So first we'd like to go to Cynthia in Central El Paso.
So why, Mayor Leeser, why would Representative Romero, with all the intention of wrongdoing, nominate Carlos Aguilar, a stain from the past of the Anthony Cobos corruption, to the Planning Commission? It seems that favoritism is what the representative is doing now, and not in favor of his voters. Thank you.
As you know, in case people are not sure, it was in the paper today that Carlos Aguilar, who used to sit on the Commissioner's Court, has been nominated to a commission within the city, and he was indicted but never charged in the public corruption scandal. What do you have to say to that?
Well, council will be looking at it on Tuesday and voting and looking at whether it's a good nomination or not. So we'll be talking about it, and there'll be open dialogue on Tuesday on that and other nominations for boards.
Okay. Also, we have Phil in the Lower Valley.
Hi. With all of the new companies moving to town, like ADP and Mesa Airlines, how is that improving El Paso's unemployment rate, and if so, how much?
Well, you know, when we took office, and thank you for the question, good. When we took office, unemployment rate was at 9.1. Last month's unemployment rate was just at 5%. And, you know, and a lot of the jobs that we've created are moving forward, and a big percentage of it are still in the future. So we're really excited to see that the job creations and the quality of jobs are coming to El Paso. And, you know, we were talking about a little bit, Stephanie and I were talking at break about earlier about minimum wage and how do you get minimum wage up. And a lot of times as you bring competitive quality companies, quality jobs to the city where they pay a lot over minimum wage, and the company, other employers in the city of El Paso don't want to lose people they've trained and invested in, so they pay them more to keep them there, so then new people will go working at the new companies and get the training and the proper training, as we've been working really close with UTEP and community college as the companies come to El Paso to train them and have the correct curriculum for those type of jobs. So unemployment is one of the things that when I ran for office was one of the things that we wanted to really focus on, and it's really gone in the right direction. And a couple months ago it's gone as low as 4.5, which is way below the national average, which El Paso had not been below no national average in a long time.
And sticking with minimum wage, we did have a comment from Susie. If we could pop that up, Sean. She was asking on Facebook if you will and could raise the minimum wage here in the city, and we've seen other mayors take that on. In fact, they were discussing it in Las Cruces as well. So is that something that you would consider?
Well, one of the things we did consider and did do on this budget this year was to that we would not have any city employees that would work for less than $10 an hour. So all city employees that are team members of the city are now working for no less than $10 an hour. And like I just mentioned, the best way of raising minimum wage is to bring quality jobs to El Paso, quality companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies that do pay bigger wages, and it becomes a natural for other companies to start paying higher wages.
But it's not something, I think this person was an EPIC employee. This isn't something that you would tackle on a citywide basis and making it like an edict, if you will, or an ordinance.
Yeah, EPISD is completely different than El Paso, and like I said, the city of El Paso, we're able to bring that forward for all city employees to be able to get $10 an hour minimum.
Okay, we have a call from Carlos. He's on the west side.
I want to know when we're going to have the new arena. Is it going to take how many more months or years to let us know where the location is going to be at?
That arena approved by the voters and the quality of life.
There's 3 signature projects, which is, and the arena is one of them, and it's really important that we identify the location and make sure that we stay within budget and bring it forward. So we're still out. We've been out trying to identify. We've selected 3 different sites, and so we've actually started moving forward to see which site we'd be able to acquire all the property needed to be able to put it forward. So we're working on it, and you know, the quality of life bond items were on a rollout between 10 and 15 years. The 3 signature projects we're looking at them now just because interest rates are so low. So we really kind of tried to move them forward just because the rates are so low and they're the largest projects. So we're working on them very hard to identify where we could put them where it'd be more cost efficient.
We also had someone on Twitter asking, why are city projects roads always delayed and over budget? And I gave that to you just so you can maybe clarify that.
Well, it seems that way. And the reason why it seems that way is because those are the ones that are being reported. But actually, about 80% of all the projects right now that we're working on are on budget and on time. And we do have some projects that have not been on budget or on time, and we're working somewhere on time, not on time, but they're still on budget. But the majority of all the projects that we're moving forward today are on budget and on time.
And one of them that is a little delayed, and it's been in the public eye, like you mentioned, is the San Jacinto Plaza. And someone had asked about that. Mike on Facebook said, I'd like to know how much money has been collected in penalties from the Placita de los Lagartos contractors.
And we have not collected any because the contract's not finished, but that is in the contract that every day that's been delayed, the city will implement a $1,000 fine moving forward. But we have to look and see, was it a rainy day and that's why it wasn't done, or what it could be, and when the final day will be finished. And we're really working hard because we wanted just as bad as everyone to make sure that that project gets completed.
And when is the contract up for the San Jacinto Plaza project?
Well, the contract was supposed to be finished late February, early March, and we're still working on it. And like I said, there's nobody in this town that wants it done now than council and myself. So we're working really hard with the city attorney, city manager to move forward to have it completed. And we're going over some obstacles that are very important, and a lot of them are make sure that we have all the safety items moving forward to finish the project.
And finally, this is always a question that comes up no matter what you ask. If you have someone from the city, someone always asks this last question, Mayor. Benny Garcia is asking, are we ever going to get a big amusement park like Six Flags?
You know, we're going out and talking to companies and earning their business. And one of the things that's really important that when you want a Six Flags type of amusement, that you work with your surrounding areas, and that working with Juarez and working with Las Cruces and 2.5 million strong working together, we can achieve a lot. So that's what we're working on. We're working on working together to bring a lot of things for. One of the things we're working on right now is to expedite the lanes, and I know that we didn't talk about that, and that wasn't the question, but it just popped as we work together to expedite traffic from Juarez into El Paso. I met with the Mayor Juarez 2 weeks ago, and we talked about extending hours for commercial to get those trucks off the bridges. We're actually putting a second X-ray machine to take the empties back from El Paso into Juarez, and they've been working on that for, I can't even tell you how many years. We went to Washington and talked to the ambassador of Mexico and came to an agreement to get it done. That'll be complete in October, which is huge to continue the quality of life for the citizens of El Paso. So Lenny, we're working on bringing more amusements to El Paso, but we have to work together, and 2.5 million strong is how we're working together to bring large companies to El Paso.
Okay. Also, you mentioned something before we started this newscast that you wanted to talk about your invitation to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and it's very exciting. My wife and I have been invited by President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama to go to Washington, D.C. and greet the Pope on next Wednesday. So we're very excited to be going to Washington, D.C. and being part of the great ceremony of being with the Pope.
One final question. I just saw this in our email from Ruth saying that she lives in Northeast by Barron Elementary, and my family has been anxious waiting for Barron Park. It was supposed to be completed over a year ago, and they saw that it's still undone. It's growing weeds now. They're just wondering, when is this going to be finished, and how can other projects be started when this one has not been completed?
Yeah, Barron Park is about 95% finished. The last finishing touches that we need on Barron Park is the swing sets and the slides and kind of the amusement part of the park. The sod has taken and the trees have been planted, and we still have the fencing for safety reasons, but it's actually about 95% finished, and you'll see us moving forward within the next week to bring the slides and the swings and everything as the basketball courts have been finished. And it's almost there, and it was delayed due to some the basketball courts had cracked, and we needed to resurface them. The sod, when it came down, it didn't really take, so we had to replace a lot of the sod, and the trees were not the proper size. So we did a lot of, but we have it finished, and it looks like you'll be seeing your park open in Barron Park very, very soon.
Okay, we're running out of time. In fact, we're over time, but there's one last question to kind of wrap it up. This is from Brian saying, how does the outlook you foresee for the El Paso area in 5 to 10 years look with several expansions at Fort Bliss, our local universities, and our medical community?
And the futures never look better, you know, and you look at Fort Bliss, when we had the BRAC cut down, El Paso lost 1,219 troops, which was the least of all the troops. One troop is too many, but we really, we have great leaders in El Paso. General Twitty has really embraced our community, and we've basically, you know, El Paso and Fort Bliss has become one community, and we work really close together. So as BRAC continues to move forward, El Paso really will see less cutbacks than anyone else. The medical, as you see, the Medical Center of America is building their new building and bringing their facility forward is a huge foot forward for our community. And also you saw our Providence, as they're building a new hospital in Northwest El Paso. And you know, these companies all have options, and I remember going to Dallas and talking to the head of for Providence, and they talked about the investment, the $120 million they wanted to invest within El Paso, and they said we could go anywhere, but El Paso is where we see the future, we see the growth. You see Williams-Sonoma, Pottery Barn, Chewy's, all these companies had grand openings, La Madeleine, Kona Grill. They all had grand openings. It was the best grand opening ever in the history of their companies, because El Paso is on the move and on the right track, and it's so exciting to see that not only right now, next year, but the next 5 to 10 years, the future could be better.
Okay, Mayor, thank you for coming in tonight. Thank you for spending your time with us, and thank you everyone for all of your questions and emails and comments on Twitter. Again, thank you for watching. This has been ABC-7 Extra. Have a great night.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Visit us on the web at KVIA.com.